What's up, everyone? Matt Kane here from Kane's Corner. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you follow on Instagram, Kane's Corner Sports, and Matty Kane 105. And make sure you follow me on Twitter, also Matty Kane 105. Again, make sure you subscribe, follow on Instagram, follow on Twitter. Let's get on to the program. We are back with Kane's Corner on this beautiful Thursday afternoon. As always, I'm Matt Kane here to bring you the breaking and the hottest topics in sports. We got a pretty good one today. I'm kind of excited. Going into the NBA offseason, I thought after the NBA Finals were done, Stanley Cup Finals are still going on, but after the NBA Finals, I thought maybe things will slow down in terms of the NBA. But this is an NBA-heavy show. And then we got some more news, breaking news kind of in NFL. One of the all-time bests calling it quits. So we have to talk about that. And, of course, still the Stanley Cup Finals are going on. Maybe we'll be talking about that later in the show depending on the time. But, as always, hit that subscribe button. Follow along for the journey. The Instagram Reels have been doing very well. I'm starting to think that it's because the Boston fanboys make it do really, really well, because my last two were from Boston, about Boston, and they got 5,000 views and 4,000 views. Actually, the second one that was posted on Tuesday broke a record for my Instagram Reels with 5,600, I believe, amount of views, which is amazing. And I have to thank all the Boston fanboys that checked it out, commented. I love hearing what you guys have to say, and I love hearing some hate comments and some comments where people think I'm a clown, and some people, with the traditional comments, you've never been on an NBA court. I love those comments. They're the best. I can't complain. So, if you look to the right of me, we have Kyrie Irving. That's new news that has came out this past week. Kyrie Irving and the Nets are at an impasse. We'll break that down. NBA draft Thursday. Today, later tonight, the NBA draft. I will give you my pick for the number one spot to fit with the Orlando Magic. Then, of course, Rob Gronkowski, the famous tight end to pair with Tom Brady, who played for the Patriots and Bucs with Tom, is finally calling it quits again. He's retiring from the NFL. We'll get all of that, and I'll break down whether I think he is the greatest tight end to ever play and what this means for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. As always, we're going to go to the jersey of the day. You see a new jersey on me every single show, and I give you my choice of jersey. I've got a lot of jerseys. We're not even halfway through all my jersey collection, and we're adding another one at least coming very soon. I'll be surprised. I'll be the mystery jersey, and I'll have maybe you guys guess what that jersey is. But today's jersey, I have Mitch Marner, the Toronto Maple Leafs home sweater of Mitch Marner, number 16. The reason why I'm wearing this today is because this is the day after Mitch Marner was announced that he was on the NHL first team, I guess they would call it, with Austin Matthews, who won the MVP. Congrats to him. Cale Makar, obviously a fan favorite of mine. Igor Shesterkin, Roman Josi, and Johnny Gaudreau. That's why I got this on. I actually bought this shortly after I visited Toronto. It's a great city. I love the atmosphere, and it's one of the best cities I've been to. That's a big city. I mean, I've been to New York City. I've been to LA. I've been to Toronto. I've been to some big cities, but I think Toronto is definitely the best one out of the three. It's easy. It's walkable, which I enjoy. It for the most part. It's walkable, at least when you're in the heart of the city, and it's rather safe, I believe. Don't quote me on that. I was there for like 3 days, but I had no problems with safety. And yeah, I enjoyed it. I had a lot of friends with my college roommates. So if you haven't been there, I would totally suggest, especially now that everything's opened up, totally suggest going there and having some fun. Maybe catch a ball game or a hockey game. It's all relatively close by, especially the Rogers Place and then Scotiabank Arena, or the Raptors. I mean, you could watch basketball there, but I wouldn't. I personally would pick a hockey game. I didn't see either because I'm pretty sure it was some type of break or something. The Maple Leafs weren't playing. The Blue Jays were on the offseason in Toronto. I believe that would be preseason. So I didn't catch any of those games, but if I had to go again, I would definitely want to go to Toronto Maple Leafs game. Also, the Hockey Hall of Fame is there. It's great, but let's dive into the show. Enough about Toronto, and let's dive into the show. So there's news came out in the NBA that Kyrie Irving and the Brooklyn Nets are at an impasse. Now, what's an impasse? I had the same question, kind of. I figured out what it meant just on the connotation of how people said it, and, they basically said, is Kyrie going to be a Net? So I basically figured out that impasse is they're at an impasse with the contract, which means they're basically at a dead end. Nobody is deciding anything, and nothing's moving forward. That's basically what an impasse is. So Kyrie Irving and the Nets, they're at a contract impasse. Kyrie has high demands, I'm hearing, and the Brooklyn Nets won't give Kyrie the demands. So that leaves the big question of the day: where will Kyrie end up next year? Basically, I'm going to break down where I think Kyrie Irving fits in the NBA. I will give you a hint. It's not a lot of places. But I'll tell you where I think he fits in the NBA, and I'll tell you where I think he's going to go and play next season. Now, obviously, you're hearing all this rumors about LeBron James possibly becoming, getting Kyrie Irving back. A lot of Anthony Davis deals, Russell Westbrook, that type of deal is in place. But if Kyrie goes back with LeBron, I think that is one of a better option for Kyrie. I just don't think it'll fit his personality. Now, what we've seen of Kyrie is Kyrie does not want to be a number 2 guy. Kyrie wants the ball and he wants to shoot. That's all he wants to do. It's basically Kyrie is about himself and no one else. We saw what he did. He sat out. He refused to get the vaccine, which totally, I get it. I respect it. You do you, man. But still, at the same time, you're not playing NBA. At least at home. You're not playing NBA. And you're hurting your team by not playing for them at home. You're hurting the chemistry. And the Brooklyn Nets were just the whole mess. And Kyrie was a big part of that. So that's where it's like, Kyrie, are you a team player? Then he had his whole family matters, which I understand, but it kind of got to a point where, does he actually have family matters, or is he just not wanting to play? And then he goes out and says, basketball isn't the best thing in my life, or isn't the major part of my life. So Kyrie, why would the Brooklyn Nets give you a big contract? You've obviously said that basketball isn't the biggest part of your life. Why would they give you a deal that would give you a ton of money, and they would have to trust you that you will be playing for them, which has been tough. So I don't blame Brooklyn for any of this. I don't think Brooklyn needs to fill Kyrie's demands, and if a team wants to fill Kyrie's demands, I think it's going to be a team that's either desperately needing a scorer, or a team that has a ton of cap space, which a team Kyrie wouldn't want to go to, like the Detroit Pistons and the bottom feeders of the NBA. Kyrie Irving, where he fits is probably the most difficult question that you can answer. Obviously, Kyrie, at the best point of Kyrie's life, at the peak of Kyrie, he was an amazing player. He's got good ball handling, and he could shoot the ball. He can't play defense. That's a liability. But he could shoot the ball, and he could be a flashy point guard, or a point guard that you would need to feed it to another guy. He's basically perfect for Boston. I'll say that. He basically is. But that's not going to happen because of what happened there. And Kyrie was basically like he was just awful for the team chemistry and awful in the locker room. But Kyrie would fit so well in Boston. It's kind of funny because what Boston needs is a ball handler, and they need a true point guard. They need someone to bring the ball up and feed it to Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Robert Williams, etc. Kyrie can fill that, and Kyrie can even score for you guys. Now, if Kyrie was playing in that NBA Finals, I think that would definitely be forced to Game 7, and maybe the Celtics would have won, but that was based on let me preface that. That would be if Kyrie was playing close to his peak. I'm not going to say he was playing at his peak, and he was in a locker room cancer. I don't like that whole term, but I just can't find another term for it. He wasn't a locker room cancer. Then I think the Boston Celtics could possibly be NBA champions, and they would definitely force it to Game 7, and they could possibly be NBA champions. So Boston, I think, is easily the best fit for Kyrie, in my opinion. But we're not going to go that way. I'm not going to come out here and say Kyrie's going to go to Boston because that's not realistic, even though it's a good fit. Where I think Kyrie has the best fit from the destinations that have been listed. I'm talking about the Lakers, the Knicks, the Clippers, the Heat. I've heard their names get thrown around. Though, who else? We'll take those 4 teams. All right, the Heat, the Lakers, the Clippers, the Knicks. Where I think he is going to have the best fit, and where I honestly think can happen is the Los Angeles Clippers. Obviously, the Lakers is a that's like a no-brainer for LeBron. To bring back Kyrie, maybe throw them Anthony Davis, Russell Westbrook. I doubt it can happen, but Anthony Davis, Russell Westbrook, for Ben Simmons and Kyrie Irving. That's what Nick Wright said on Fox Sports. It's not gonna happen. I don't know why the Nets would accept that deal, but still, if they could somehow get Kyrie back to the Lakers, I don't think that's an awful fit. He would be back with LeBron, and they could fix their differences because at one point of his career, the best he was at was with LeBron. So if he could get back with LeBron, I think that could help his career. But again, I don't think Kyrie wants to be a number 2 guy. I think he wants the ball in his hands, and he wants to score, and he wants to be the number 1 guy for a team. Now, why I think the Clippers is perfect, it's in LA. Just being in LA is a huge factor. Hey, you want to come to LA, you make a ton of money. Like that, look what it did to LeBron's career when he left Ohio to go to LA. Like he's a billionaire now, and he's profited so much just on the big market in LA. So, you could get Kyrie, you could tell him, hey, you come to LA. You come to Inglewood, where you play, soon you'll be playing across the street from the Los Angeles Clippers, or Los Angeles Rams. The Rams that just won the Super Bowl. You'll be playing right across from them, and you'll get to breathe in that dynasty air. Like, a couple shows ago, I said the LA Rams could possibly be a dynasty. I still think that. But Kyrie, with the Clippers, he would be with Kawhi Leonard, because I know that they would not get rid of Kawhi in this Kyrie deal. Now, maybe they might have to get rid of Paul George, and with that, some type of deal with Kyrie. But still, Kawhi Leonard, you'd be bringing in Kyrie Irving to be that second star. Now, the difference between LeBron and Kawhi is he's a defensive messiah. We know Kawhi Leonard as the defensive player of the year, the defensive man of the Los Angeles Clippers. Now you bring a guy with Kyrie who's awful at defense. I'll say that again. He's not that good at defense. And you pair him with Kawhi, who's amazing at defense. I think that's a perfect fit. Kawhi's not going to handle the ball. Kyrie will. Kyrie won't play defense. Kawhi will. Kyrie will shoot. He's a good shooter. I'm not necessarily Kawhi would shoot. So I think it just fits like a couple puzzle pieces. But the only thing I have that I'm worried about with the Los Angeles Clippers would be Kawhi coming back from his injury. Now, I said Kawhi was the 8th best player in the NBA, and I still stand by it. I think he is the last player from the superstar to star. 1 through 8 are stars, or superstars. 1 through 8 are superstars. Then you get into 9 with Jason Tatum and then to Devin Booker. What I said, those are stars. I think Kawhi still fits in the superstar tier. And depending on his injury, he could fall or climb. I think Kawhi will stay. And I hope he's the same Kawhi Leonard because he's a marvel to watch. So that's the only thing I would hate. And I'd also hate they'd probably get rid of Paul George, which is... just getting Kyrie, you'd have to get rid of some type of capital, and I don't see it not being Paul George. in that case scenario. If they keep Paul George and somehow get Kyrie, hands down, whoever the Clippers GM, shout out to you, because that's a great deal. But I think when we're talking about it, the best fit for quote Kyrie Irving would be the Los Angeles Clippers. Don't count out the Knicks. The Knicks would be decent. I just don't think the Knicks would be a championship team with Kyrie there. They'd probably have to get rid of, I don't know, RJ Barrett, their first round pick, Emmanuel Quickly. I don't think they'd get rid of Julius Randle. Mitchell Robinson, maybe. Probably Mitchell Robinson. That would be a good trade for the Brooklyn Nets to get Robinson in. But best fit for Kyrie Irving in the NBA that's not the couch, is the Los Angeles Clippers. All right, well, sticking with the NBA, we got the NBA draft tonight. Pretty excited. I've done a lot of I watched a lot of the March Madness. I'm interested. I'm intrigued by these players that are coming into the NBA. Some more than others. But the Magic hold the first pick, and I did this before when the draft lottery came out, who I thought would be the top 3 picks. Then I said Jabari Smith to the Magic, Chet Holmgren to the OKC Thunder, Paolo Banchero to the Houston Rockets. So the big question is, who are the Orlando Magic going to select? Now, there's been some concern for the 3 players. The 3 players are fantastic, and I think it's going to be between Jabari Smith, Chet Holmgren, and Paolo Banchero. Do I think that's the best idea for the Magic? Yes, but no. I do think that Jaden Ivey is a great talent, and he could be one of the best players in the NBA. He could be one of the best players in this draft class. Give him 5 years if he's in the right system, because of how he just popped off the screen in college, and especially you saw him in the March Madness tournament. He was fantastic playing for Purdue. I think Jaden Ivey is just a great scorer, a great marvel, and he will be great in this league if he fits the team he gets drafted to. But I don't think he'll be in this top 3. So I do think it's going to be between Jabari Smith, Chet Holmgren, and Paolo Banchero. And if I was the Orlando Magic, I am taking Jabari Smith. The reason why I'm taking Jabari Smith is because he looks like the best player out of the 3, in my opinion, just looking at what they did in college. Now, the reason why I say that is Jabari Smith is a fantastic shooter. He's very lanky. He's got good height. He's 6'10", so he's got tremendous height for a power forward, or even a small forward that I think you could run him with. He kind of reminds me of a Kevin Durant. Now, by the words I'm explaining, he kind of reminds me of Kevin Durant because he's a tall guy, he's lanky, a power forward who can shoot the ball. He's going to be a great two-way player going into the league, and out of every guy in this draft, I think that he is the one with the most potential, up there with Paolo Banchero and I guess Chet Holmgren, Paolo Banchero, and Jaden Ivey. I think those are guys with the most potential, and that's probably going to be the top 4 picks. I like Jabari Smith at Orlando also because Orlando has 1 pick, and they don't want to mess it up because Orlando has been here for a while now. They drafted Jalen Suggs, Franz Wagner, Mo Bamba. They drafted a ton of players in the top 10, and they don't want to come back here every single year. So they have 1 shot and 1 shot only. With Chet Holmgren, it's kind of like, what kind of player are you going to get? Are you going to get a bust, or are you going to get a unicorn who's going to boom in the NBA? So I think Orlando has 1 shot to do it, and I think they will take Jabari Smith. Now, for the second pick, the OKC Thunder, I think that's where Chet Holmgren fits in. The Thunder... Sam Presti, one of the best GMs in my opinion, for a guy who wants to rebuild his franchise. He has pick after pick after pick after pick. So he can take Chet and worry about Chet's development years after this day. He could take Chet and develop him to be one of the best players in the league. Or the OKC Thunder have time, and time is valuable. And when you have time, that it will be key for a guy like Chet Holmgren. Chet is going to be a unicorn. He is a guy who we haven't seen that often. He kind of reminds me of Kristaps Porzingis with his height and his very skinny frame, but he is great rim protector and he can be a great scorer. And I think he'll pan out decently. I don't think he'll be the best player in this draft, but I do think he'll pan out decently in the next couple years. So that leaves me with pick number 3. I think this would be a lock for Banchero. I can't see Banchero falling to 4, even though that might be the best thing for the Kings. But he's basically a lock for Houston. I don't need to explain much about that. Banchero kind of is, I feel like he might be the most NBA ready, but he will fall in the NBA draft to pick number 3. Not really fall, but he'll fall to pick number 3. And then at 4, I think Jaden Ivey, that's where he'll go. I can't see the Kings going, even though they have not Donovan Mitchell. They have Davion Mitchell and De'Aaron Fox. I can't see them going away from the best available player, and that is by far Jaden Ivey at 4. Ivey, like I said, is a great scorer, and I think he'll be a great player. And I'd actually be kind of scared of the Sacramento Kings if I was the rest of the bottom feeders in the NBA, because they can have De'Aaron Fox, Davion Mitchell, Jaden Ivey, and Domantas Sabonis. Now, how are they going to run that lineup? I'm not sure, but that would be, in my opinion, pretty scary in the next couple of years. And then at 5, I think that this is Detroit, and Detroit kind of, it's like the same thing. I think you take the best player available, and that would be Keegan Murray. They need him. Like they can take another forward, but if I'm Detroit, I'm just upset that I missed out on those 4 guys. But that's my top 5. That's my top 5 picks. Maybe I will drop a mock draft. I'm not sure. I know I have one going, but I'm not sure if I'll drop it. If I do, make sure you look for that on Instagram, because the Portland Trail Blazers have a pick coming up. The Pelicans have a pick coming up. A lot of great picks. And a lot of great players, to be honest, coming in to the NBA draft. My favorite player, Buddy Boeheim. He probably won't get drafted, but Buddy Boeheim, he should get drafted. Syracuse Orange, I can go on and on about that. But my last topic for today's show, I know we're running on 21 minutes. Jeez, it feels like it's been 10. But the last thing I want to talk about is possibly the most funny, hilarious, he seems very dumb. He kind of plays the personality of the NFL has retired. Yes, Rob Gronkowski has retired from the NFL. He's retired from the NFL again. So Rob Gronkowski retires, and it kind of leaves us in a spot. Where does he rank all time in the top tight ends? Is he the greatest tight end ever? While I think Rob Gronkowski is one of the most feared tight ends to ever take the field, he's 6'6", almost 270, I think it is. He's undoubtedly a Hall of Famer. He's helped Tom Brady multiple times bring Super Bowls to New England and Tampa Bay. But I do have to side still with Tony Gonzalez. The thing about Tony Gonzalez is he had the durability. He racked up a ton of catches and a ton of yards. And while he maybe wasn't the most athletic or physically gifted than Rob Gronkowski, he was dependable. He was a guy who you could depend on, and he was just always available. And that's the reason why he has 14 Pro Bowl selections, is because he was a marvel, and he hands down is the best tight end to ever play, and I'll stand by that. The only person I do think can catch him is Travis Kelce of the Kansas City Chiefs. If Travis Kelce still plays as great as he does with Patrick Mahomes for the next 5 years or until he retires, I think Travis Kelce will go hands down the greatest tight end to ever play. But right now, I have to stick with Tony Gonzalez. Now, that's not the only thing I want to talk about with Rob Gronkowski, because that kind of puts Tom Brady in an interesting spot. Tom has played with his tight end every single year except one. That's when Rob Gronkowski retired first time. And it kind of leaves the question, Tom, he retired. He's obviously mulling retirement in his head. So it's like, when does Tom actually retire? Because now Tom doesn't have his best friend playing with him, either of them, Julian Edelman or Gronkowski. it's kind of like, when does the juice end for Tom Brady? And like I've said before, I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to go out this season. Tom Brady does not like losing in the playoffs, and I think that they'll go to the Super Bowl. I do think they'll win. They'll beat the Broncos. That's what I have. And after that, I do think Tom Brady will go into retirement. And I think that this really helps my case, because originally I thought Rob Gronkowski would be back, but I think that this really helps my case, because at this point, it's like, Tom, there's not too many of your besties around to play with you. He's already losing interest, as we see. He still has the taste of victory in his mouth, and he still wants to go out there and win. But I do think that will die down, at least for if he wins another Super Bowl. I think it would be a perfect thing for Tom Brady to go out in a Super Bowl. That's the last thing you remember about him, is winning, and that just cements the greatest. I hate saying it, but the greatest quarterback of all time. It would cement him, and he'd go right into Fox, into the booth. But it'll be interesting to see how this affects Tom Brady coming up in the year. I don't think it'll affect him at all. Cameron Brate's a great tight end. I'm talking more mentally how it will affect him, losing Gronkowski to retirement. But that's going to be all for Kane's Corner today. I've really enjoyed it. We have some great shows coming up in the future. We're going to try to get more guests on. And, if you want to be a guest, reach out to me on Instagram. Always open to DMs. And comment below on this video also if you want to be a guest. But make sure you hit that subscribe button. Today's show was great. We talked Kyrie Irving, we talked NBA draft, and we talked Rob Gronkowski. Action-packed, because we're already 27 minutes in. So that's going to be all for Kane's Corner. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you follow on Instagram and follow along for all the latest updates and possible mock drafts that you can get. See you next time.